Hi, I'm Charlie Band, and this is Scream Dreams.
Well,
Not
I
what
said,
you did.
I want to take my boob out, so I did. And then I said, equal opportunity, we need to see something of Larry.
Oh,
so we need to show Larry's butt. And Travis was like,
I don't really want to
wanna
see Larry's butt.
But Larry was like, yeah, show my butt. You know, Larry. Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Scream Dreams. I'm Barbara Crampton. With me, as always, are Catherine Corcoran and James A. Janisse. Yay! Our guest today started making movies almost a half century ago. Charlie and his brother, composer Richard Band, grew up in the movie business. I first met Charles Band when I was hired to play Meg in Re-Animator. Charles distributed the movie, directed by Stuart Gordon, under his then Empire Pictures banner. I went on to make two more movies that he was a part of, From Beyond and Castle Freak. Through the years, our lives have been intertwined in so many ways. I'm proud to call him a colleague and a friend and a birthday twin. We were both born on December 27th.
Great date.
Thrilled to speak with none other than mega genius Charles Band. Mega, I say mega. Yay! Because mega, you always used to say that
I said it,
word.
but that was so like the 80s. I don't say that.
You don't say it
No, I say
anymore?
worse things now.
Is that your thing, Mega?
No, it was back when
Everything
Mega
was
was
Mega.
kind of, now it's like, you know, or Uber. Uber was cool
Okay.
in
Yeah.
the 90s. Now it's like
Yeah.
talking about a ride.
Yeah,
I can't say
that's
that.
That's
true.
all.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that killer intro. Wow.
We've known each other for so long now.
For a while, yeah.
And just amazing to be sitting here with you.
You know, it's funny.
And I was on your podcast,
I can
too.
flash. Yeah, this is true. I can flash back to so many moments, and I do remember when you were hired for Re-Animator,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to all these stories are not good. I went to Stuart.
They're
and I
not
go,
good?
No, they're good. They're good. they're just kind
Okay,
of
yes.
like.
Oh, tell me the skinny. You didn't like me for the part. You were
No,
like,
no, I loved you for the part. But I said, Stuart, are you sure this girl's going to be like the head, the thing, the head,
I
the,
know,
you know?
right?
I mean, come on. Today,
Yeah.
I don't know. Things have changed maybe in a way for the better, for the worse. But Stuart says, oh, yeah, she's totally fine. She's great with that. She has
Yeah,
no
we had
problem.
a contract, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you
About
know,
what
I
it
said,
was
but I
gonna
said,
be.
Stuart, because, we talked and I said, is she going to literally, the thing, the head, where it's
Yeah.
going? He goes, yeah, she's totally happy with that.
Yeah.
I said, okay,
Well-
you're our kind of scum, man. It's like, let's make it happen.
Scum?
I said, no, it's a terrible
Scum.
expression, but it's a
No.
Star Wars reference. Never mind.
Oh, okay, I don't know about that.
No, you don't.
Listen, I'm an innocent. I'm forever an innocent. And back then I was like, oh, that'd be
Funnier
so
than Playboy.
cute. You know, this head is there and we're going to have sex and then we don't have sex and it's going to be horrible. But I actually didn't realize the ramifications that scene would take on through the years and how
Yeah.
people would think about it. And okay, I go kind of in and out with that scene and what that meant to me. And at some points I feel like, whatever, it's fine. It's kind of cool. And then other times I'm like, wow, I was kind of exploited. So I have to.
No, I think your naivete, the way you just describe yourself, like it's going to be fun and cool. And thank God for that, because otherwise you would have said no. You know,
That's why the first gal turned it down, because her mother
Right.
read the script. And then her
Correct.
mother said, no, you're not doing this movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I read it. It actually didn't even occur to me to be scared or nervous about it. But I was brought up in the carnival business. And so nothing kind of shames me or scares me or, I saw a lot of stuff by the time I was 11 years old. And
Right.
so, I don't know, this was like, really?
Well, plus you also knew it was pretend. It was a
course.
show.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that that's your whole upbringing as a carny
Yeah.
girl. I love that, because I'm so into that world. I have a collection of magic posters and carnival posters dating back to the late 1800s. I mean, that's what we would be doing here. I mean, if not
That's
for
what we were
movies
saying
and
before
digital,
we
we
started
would
filming this.
totally
You're
be.
P.T. Barnum.
I'd be P.T. Barnum,
Yeah.
come see a tattooed person.
I know that you got. We talked about this when you first came in, and I've always been aware of Full Moon because my very first lead in a feature, kind of similar to Barbara, was this Trauma movie, which was also very crazy. And I know you're friendly with Lloyd,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like a similar thing.
We share that a little bit.
Yeah, and I was like I remember when everyone was very nervous about Nuke High when I did it, and my mother in particular, and but I didn't think to be. You learn when things go wrong later in your career, you learn to like be like, oh, maybe I should have thought about that. But when in the moment when you're creating and when you're young, you just don't think about it. You just do it.
I never watched Nuke 'Em High. So what happened in Nuke 'Em High?
Well, at the time, I mean, at the time, it was kind of controversial because we had a lesbian sex scene when gay marriage wasn't legal.
Okay.
And that's why we got it. That's why we got into Cannes because gay marriage wasn't legal
when
in
was
the United
this?
States. 2012. So we
Oh,
did the
wow.
2013 Cannes Film Festival. I was 19.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And I think people that was my first introduction into independent horror.
Were
and
you
people
the lesbian in it?
yeah, I was the lead. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so and
Barbara, you should know these.
Lead lesbian. Yeah.
I know. She's like one of my best friends
I am
now.
the lesbian. No.
I need to watch that movie. Yeah.
But I think but it was definitely, when you're 19 years old and you're about to do nudity for the first time, I think anyone around you is kind of nervous. And Lloyd tells this story all the time about my mom. He asks how she is, and whenever I see him, and the reason he asks that is because when after it got into Cannes, it then won a bunch of awards, which was crazy for a trauma movie. It was in the Museum of Modern Art with Wolf of Wall Street and Blue Jasmine. It was wild that year. And my parents came to see it at MoMA. And I introduced my mom to Lloyd, and I'm sure you've had similar interactions. And Lloyd said, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you. You probably hated me at one point." And my mom said, "You're right. I do." Not I did. I do. And he asks me, it's like an ongoing joke. How is your mother doing?
Yeah.
But I think it's like I get it. It's scary for parents. I can see why the other, girl's mother, but thank God it was you because there's no one better to do it.
Well, it gave me my career, that movie. I mean, and it wasn't that scene because the movie stands on its own without that scene.
Yeah.
The movie was terrific. That's just one of the talking
Because
points.
that scene's not even in the rated
No.
version, right? That's only in the
Yeah, they cut
unrated
it out.
version.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it became a cult hit based on the theatrical version.
It was similar with Nuke 'Em High. The only real nudity, it got divided into two parts. So the first part is what got into competition, and the second part actually has more nudity in it than the first. And the sex scene itself is like, we make fun of everything. Very no one is safe. We're gonna put green goo and have you vomit all over the place. Like no one is safe. But the relationship between the two characters, we just played it straight, and pun intended. And the reason that the film did well was because that's I always say that you guys make stupid movies for smart people.
Yeah.
You know what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I still don't have trouble.
Take a little exception, but it doesn't matter.
I don't have trouble with nudity in films. And even in Jacob's Wife, when I did that film, Travis Stevens directed that. And so I said, my character has a sex scene with Larry Fessenden. And Larry and I basically choreographed that ourselves. And I said, I need to show something. I need to show my breast. I need to offer my breast to Larry, to have sex with him because we've been kind of repressed for many years and I become a vampire and I'm coming into my sexuality and I'm like, I got to show my breasts. And Travis was like, okay.
Which is the first. This is the first in showbiz. You know that.
What?
This is the first that the actress says, "Please let me show my breast."
I know.
It
Well,
doesn't.
but
I've never
never.
heard of that ever. It's usually the director, the producer, and they
Talking
invent
them
some
into it.
cockamamie reason, the thing, the subplot, and come on, lady, just take your boobs out. That's what happens.
Well,
Not
I
what
said,
you did.
I want to take my boob out. So I did. And then I said, equal opportunity, we need to see something of Larry.
Oh,
so we
dude.
need to show Larry's butt. And Travis was like,
I don't really
know
want
if
to
I
see
wanna show
Larry's
Larry's
butt.
butt. But Larry was like, yeah, show my butt. Larry. And so we choreographed the whole thing where I offer my breasts to Larry, and then we roll around on the floor, and then Larry's on top of me, and then he's got to take his pants off to, because we're going to have intercourse.
Right.
So that's the only shot we could get of him was his butt. So he took his pants down, and then, we saw his butt, whatever. And then it was, in the assembly, it was there, right? And then I saw, some more footage that was cut together, and then I was going to give, my notes on it. And the butt shot wasn't there.
Butt was gone?
The butt was gone.
See,
And
I don't like that. Equal opportunity nude.
And I said to Travis, where's the butt? Where's Larry's butt? And he said, I love you, Larry. He goes, well, Larry's butt's kind of wrinkled, and so we don't want to see it. And I'm like, no, we want to
That's
see
exactly
Larry's
why you
wrinkled
need
butt. I don't
to
care
see
what
it.
the butt
Yeah.
looks like. We have to see the butt. He's like, I don't know, Barbara. I don't really. I said, Travis, I'm not asking for a lot. I'm asking for that
for one
fucking
butt.
I want
see
that
One
butt in there.
wrinkly ass.
It has to be in there. It's just not right. I mean, this is like an accumulation of everything that I've done in my career, and you know,
And you were a producer, so
and
you
I was a
had
producer,
say, yeah.
so I said the butt's back in there. Anyway, so the butt's in there. I don't have any, like, one of my favorite sex scenes in movies is Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland, who just passed away. May he rest in peace,
Yeah.
with Julie Christie. Like, most beautiful sex scene I've ever seen on camera. I don't have any problem with it at all. And if my character in Re-Animator wasn't as self-actualized as she was, maybe it would have been worse for
It
me
would have
because
been, it would have been stupid.
It would have
You were
been
like,
dumb.
you know, well,
cares?
trust up. So now we're a quarter of the way into this, and what have we talked about so far?
boobs and butts. And
Butts.
Well, here's a question.
Nudity,
I think horror does it first, right? Particularly indie
Mm-hmm.
horror. Has that been something you've been conscious of your whole career, making sure you push the bounds in that way, and are you equal opportunity in what you'll show?
It depends on the project. I mean, I've made. How did you define these movies? Stupid movies for smart people.
Well, because they're silly.
I've made
silly
some
movies.
of those, but
yeah.
I've also made, I think, pretty clever movies
Yeah.
that the last thing you would think of, you don't necessarily need nudity. But when it comes to movies like vampire films, so if you go back to all the classic stuff, even the great Italian horror movies in the 80s, you know, there's nudity is part of it, you know, and done in a classy way. And if it's gratuitous, okay, maybe that's one of those stupid movies. But
Yeah.
if it's woven, I mean, From Beyond, I thought was a terrific movie and had a lot of sexuality in it.
Yeah.
Well, do you
Ken
think?
Foray's little thong around and or his little underwear.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not
falling
talking
down
about
the stairs.
Well, here's a question.
Equal opportunity
Do you
again.
try to go equal opportunity with it? Like, are you going, if you're encouraging women to show their boobs, do you actively
Not at all.
really?
With the men.
Nah.
No.
No, you just don't.
Because
I mean, you know, it depends on the scene. It's not like it's not a gratuitous thing. So if it works for the scene, I mean, look, think of any great vampire movie. You don't usually see the vampire naked, you know. And I mean,
Right.
so
You see
I'm
the
accustomed
woman, yeah.
to not seeing that. Maybe one day someone will make it, and some vampire's dick will be flying around. And, you know, but
Yeah.
it's not my cup
Yeah.
of tea. I want to make movies that I would enjoy watching, and those movies had half-naked women getting jumped on by vampires.
Yeah, you don't feel like it just doesn't do it for you.
No, but that's just me. I'm just
But that
one.
is the old school kind of way about you're making
Yeah.
movies that you want to see, and that's
Yep.
why we didn't have a lot of guys who were naked in movies because it was mostly older men
Yeah.
that were in charge and writing the scripts,
Yeah.
and so they weren't going to write themselves naked. They didn't want to be vulnerable. It's about
Yeah.
vulnerability more than anything.
Yeah, but I think it's also what you're used to, what movies you're used to seeing, you know, kind of what makes you comfortable or not as a filmmaker. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, these movies are entertainment, okay? I'm not making a statement ever. It's never like,
Right.
you know, just entertain and kind of go with the flow of the story, you know, is the way I like to do it.
What makes you uncomfortable then to watch? Is there things that you steer away from,
You mean in a horror movie?
or in general?
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, I just, you know, I mean, that's a massive question. I don't
Yeah.
know how to answer that. No,
got
if we're
time.
talking about movies, you know,
Yeah.
there's nothing better than a clever horror movie. I'm going to stick with horror.
Yeah.
So a movie like The Sixth Sense, Get Out, these are amazing movies because they're
Yeah.
beautifully written. They're beautifully made. And those are the movies I enjoy, even if they make me uncomfortable or creeped out
Yeah.
or whatever it is. If it's gratuitous and kind of stupid, I mean, I'm in for a thrill ride. You know, I can go on a roller coaster, but that's different you
Yeah.
know, than a real clever movie. So I don't know. I don't want to see people barfing every 3 seconds in a movie.
Yeah.
Enough barf. You know, every time there's a morgue, there's some guy eating a sandwich because the director thinks he's
Yeah.
brilliant, fucking stupid. I mean, I can go through an endless
Yeah.
list of stuff that, as an audience, I'm not into. You know, I get like, oh Jesus.
It's funny you say that. I'm working on this project, and one of the comps that we keep citing is The Boys, and I'd only watched like the first 2 seasons of The Boys, so I started watching the next, installments, and I fell off it, and I kind of felt like that was my criticism of it and why I fell off. I'm not enjoying it as much, and I think it's because it's like shock for shock's sake, and it's not perpetuating the story for me personally. Like every time I have to watch someone vomit in this thing or do something horribly shocking, like, you know, the bad guy like masturbates into like a paralyzed woman's hand or makes someone eat
What
alive.
movie is this so I can definitely not watch
So this
it?
is it's a
Boys.
series.
It's
It's a
a
TV series.
series.
But the
really?
first season
The
is
Boys.
actually
The Boys.
quite good. I remember thinking anyway. I feel like it's just we get it. It's not powerful. You don't realize how evil this character is anymore. Like we get it. We know he's evil. Just showing more like shocking things
Right.
doesn't move the
Well,
story.
you know,
for
when
me.
you
It
run out
just-
of ideas and you're not clever, you just go for the shock. And I don't know, we've gotten so gross recently with movies. It's like, oh, Jesus, we got to watch this. I mean, I know Terrifier is a big hit, and, you know, to each their own. So it's not like I'm going to judge any of that, but it's 100% not my cup of tea.
well, we just had that. No, we just.
So you saw Terrifier?
15 minutes, that was it.
Well, we talked about this yes week, and I always say this, like I love Damien. I love some of my best, like Jenna is my best friend, and
She was in Terrifier. She was the star of it.
like
I must have missed because I said I stopped early on.
With her friend Jenna.
no,
Canal.
it's okay.
you.
And Jenna's one of my best friends. And I love these people very much. However, I am very open about the fact that those are not the movies that I make myself as a
Right.
producer and a writer.
Right.
And that's okay, you know. I think, but I do what one of the big conversation points that always comes up around the first and the second film, and now around the third, is like the kills, right? They write the kills. The kills are the things. Like it's less about the plot and more about the kills. And everybody keeps bringing up this point. They're like, can they top? They're always talking about this death sequence that I did, and they're like, can they top that? And like some people argue they have, a lot of people argue they haven't. And why I think, in my opinion, it's hard to top that is because the reason that scene is particularly shocking, she's hung upside down and she gets sawed in half vertically. Is because the whole set. I wrote this article about it for the Daily Beast. The whole setup is like that she is obviously a character that's like hearkening back to like PJ Souls in Halloween, this like archetype of like the empowered, confident, sexually liberated woman who's unafraid of the killer, similar to like PJ Souls, where she says, "See anything you
Halloween.
like." Yeah, in Halloween. It's very similar harken back, and she is. And this is a trope that happens in slashers all the time. And then what ends up happening to her is she's punished very brutally by the very biological thing that makes her female.
Got it.
That's why it's upsetting to watch. And it's upsetting to watch that because you realize who she is and what the archetype is, and then you watch it play out. And that happens time and time again in horror movies, but it's so visceral and so literal and so brutal that's why it's shocking. And it's hard to replicate that when then you go for shock's sake. Because yes, you were going for the shock value in it, but it was a shock value with a
Got it.
motive. When
Yeah.
you do it just, and I'm not saying that about any of the other films any which way.
No, I get
I
that.
just think like in general in films that tends to, when you just go for the shock and not for the meaning, that's what happens.
Attention spans have also lessened, and we've told so many stories. How many stories have you told? So that's why we're seeing these movies with the kills and how much can we shock people.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how many movies have you done?
Like 3 or 4.
300 or 400 almost, right?
401 is one.
Four-
Is the one we're making now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, crap.
And
Jeez.
I mean, I remember stories in the early days where you talked about going to the Cannes Film Festival with a poster
Oh, yeah.
and pre-selling the movie
The good
based
old-
on the
the good
poster.
old
The
days.
good old days
Yeah.
when there was money and
Yeah.
we were making stuff and getting paid. And so, yeah, I mean, that's another story. But
It's an hour, yeah.
you were able to come up with stories based on, okay, I'm going to.
Well, I really,
Yeah.
it wasn't, I guess, but what I did was my first movies did well enough.
Yeah.
And then,
Which were the first movies that everybody.
There's too many.
knew? I mean, the Puppet Master series for sure.
That was the 90s. I started in
Well,
the
that's
70s.
true.
so,
No,
you
that
know.
was before that.
I made
yeah.
movies like Tourist Trap and Laser
Tourist Trap.
Blast,
Yes,
and
Tourist Trap.
Ghoulies was a big success. So
Ghoulies,
once
yeah.
I made Ghoulies, suddenly I was somewhat established, and then I started making movies and doing my own distribution. So when I went to Cannes or MeFed or later on AFM, I would literally go with a poster because, you know, today it's a little different. The business actually sucks bad, and I don't want to depress anyone here. But
No,
it
we,
does.
we can talk about how bad
Okay,
it's
well,
No,
we'll get to
we're
sucking.
daily depressed
But
about
we'll
it.
get to sucking later. But back
Yeah.
then, VHS, eventually DVD, and even before that, poster, lurid poster in a movie theater. That's what brought people in to be movies. We had no stars. We had no theatrical, unless in the early 70s. That's all we did. That's another conversation. So it was the lurid poster, which was the title and the visual. That's the only shot you had at bringing someone in or getting someone to rent your VHS off the store shelf with a bunch of other movies. So the art form was title and art. That was what it was. And we were good at that. And so I would go to these shows in the early days, having established my name through other distributors who completely ripped me off because that's what happens. And I would go with 4 or 5 posters, literally posters, with a copy line, Ghoulies, they'll get you in the end, or whatever the fuck it was. And we would sometimes come back with a few $1 million of pre-sales. And then, of course, God damn it, we had to make the movie.
Then, but did you have a script? Did you have a script then?
$1 million of pre-sales.
Oh, yeah, in the early 80s.
Because that doesn't happen anymore.
No, you get $1.
That doesn't happen at all. But did you have a script? Or do you
Almost
write
never.
the movie after?
Yeah.
Well,
it was like a litmus test because, look, video was exploding. And everyone wanted product on their shelves all over the world. And we were a little ahead in America. And I was there day one with the first independent video company on earth called Meta Home Entertainment. This is 77.
Oh, wow.
And so, you would be able to, if the buyer from France and England and Japan, we were doing great, couldn't understand what the movie was in a nanosecond, with the titles. And a lot of these titles actually stood the test of time and they traveled well. They didn't get translated usually into another language. So whether it was Ghoulies or Puppet Master, these are titles that was the title in Italy, even because it rang true somehow. So if you could appear with a poster with a title that was alluring and worked, you would make the pre-sale. And that was the way it worked for a lot of years. And then you had to make the movie, and deliver a good movie, which we usually did. And then, that continued until everything became, kind of went away.
Well, when did you start distributing your own films? Because that is a question that's been coming up a lot lately about, owning your own content and creators owning it.
Well, I owned everything except a little tranche of films that I made at Empire. So those 20-odd movies I don't own. But I own all the movies from the 70s and after Empire from Puppet Master on. And what's the question, though? Do I own film?
When did you start doing that and
day
distributing
one.
your own stuff?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. I made 8 or 9 movies in the 70s. Some of them did really well, never got any money really from these distributors. It's kind of the name of the game. And then I made a movie called Ghoulies. Yeah. And I bootstrapped and I did my own distribution. And luckily it was a big hit, relative to a small independent movie.
And how
and
did
that got me money. And then
Right.
I made a movie called Metal Storm and Parasite. And I sold Metal Storm to Universal and Parasite to Afghan Embassy. And suddenly I had money and then Empire and then stuff.
Well, did you put Ghoulies in the theaters?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did all that yourself? And
Yeah,
or did you
well, I
have-
went through sub-distributors,
Brokers and-
people who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
I didn't go there with the film cans. But no, that was a really good one, the release of Ghoulies. That was the first time I took a shot, and it was a lot of money. I mean, ebb and flow. I've had good years and horrendous years. So, it's and I wrote a book called it's not even called that anymore.
What the heck is it
Confessions
called?
of a Puppet Master.
What's it called?
Confessions of a Puppet Master.
Yeah.
Curse of the Puppet Master.
Yeah, that's
It's like,
the
what?
sequel.
That's one of the movies, yeah.
Yeah, that is one
Sixth
of the movies.
one?
Yeah, oh God. So, but yeah, I had to convince the MPAA to give me the right rating because we had to buy television. I mean, this is my first foray into direct distribution. And I met this guy who had been doing this for 8,000 years in New York. I won't do the New York accent, but he was that kind of guy. And he said, you got to get green band, you got to play these TV spots, you got to get a piece of art that you can run in the New York Times. He gave me all the kind of ins and outs. And he said, you need to make 100 prints to release it in Manhattan, that orbit. And,
how much was that?
That
back then
was
to make 100
$1,250 a print. So that alone was $125,000. And I had to spend $200,000 on media, which was basically print and TV and stuff. So I knew I couldn't get it on TV. I mean, Ghoulies popping out of the toilet and shit like that.
Right.
But, we tried, and the whole thing was the MPAA. It's a terrible story to tell. Any of these ladies are still alive. But they're all women running the show back then at the MPAA, and I had to get the rating. And I had to get, hopefully, a green band to be able to run the TV spot on television, because at the end of every TV spot, the ghoulie pops out of the toilet, and the copy line is, "They'll get you." In the end, the ghoulie's snarling out of the frickin' toilet. They gave the campaign at that time a green band. The movie was rated R, but they allowed us to play these TV spots like in children's cartoons. We could play them, and we did that.
Wow.
So we were playing these things, and it's like going to Vegas. I had $300,000 plus I made the movie. New York, my first theatrical deal, and I had this wonderful guy who had been doing it for 70 years, and this was like Thursday before Friday release. He goes, "Charles, you call me Friday." He gave me a time. I forget what time, and I can tell you how this movie is going to do. I said, "What, for the whole week?" He said, "I know this. It's math." He said, "I've done this long enough that by the time we had the first 2 or 3 screenings, by 8 o'clock New York time, I think it was that, I can let you know if you have a success or you should pack your bags and go back to Italy because you'll be totally out of money." Okay, so I'm waiting the time, the thing. And I called him, and he said, "Kid," he said, "you have a big fucking hit. You're going to do $2 million in the first week here, and less this and plus that.
Wow.
You can roll these prints around the country. It's going to be awesome." And I go, "Oh, my God." He said, "But this is bad news." "What's the bad news?" He says, "Parents are calling. They are pissed off.
Yeah.
Kids will not go in the bathroom. They won't approach a toilet. Monster." So he said, "You have 2 choices because there's a lot of heat. Either you keep it going, take the heat, or, it doesn't have to be a ghoulie coming out of a toilet. It can be peeking around a bed. It can be coming out of a closet." He said, "Do the first one, or the second one is just the fuck it approach." I said, "Oh, fuck it. We're just going to keep the ghoulie." And the funny, it was a big success, got me money, and we started to make Empire movies. But literally in the 90s, I started doing all these shows. I go on the road. I do the tours, all that stuff. And I speak to probably tens of thousands of fans over many years. And 1 out of every 3 of the kids who by then were in their 30s would say, "You fucked me up. I couldn't go in the bathroom. I'm one of those kids." And I love it. They're all happy, that they have that experience. But I met thousands of kids who were little kids at the time looking at their favorite cartoon and seeing this ghoulie coming out of the toilet.
That's amazing. But you've created also this world of characters. That's I think it's like these little kind of this mini almost, this isn't a fair comparison, but Marvel universe, if that makes sense, of characters.
We were the baby Marvel universe.
Yeah,
It
really
and
is.
we crossed over and did shit like that.
Yeah, and it really is. And I think it's this model. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you came up with this idea, because right now all the meetings that I'm taking with people is they're interested in IP that can be repurposed over different variations. They're okay, so we're writing the comic of this idea and we're making the film at the same time, and we've got this idea for a video game, and they're coming together because we have to have multi kind of.
Well, my blessing in a way is when I started Full Moon, and Puppet Master was the first Full Moon movie. Thank you for being it, Barbara Crampton.
Thank you for
You're
asking
my
me to
good
be
luck
in it.
charm. It was distributed by Paramount. That was our deal. We were direct-to-video, and that's the heyday of direct-to-video, 90, 91. And these movies all were doing super amazing.
Yeah.
And my whole model, because I'm a big Marvel Comics freak, I was very close to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and we would hang out. I used to have a great collection, which I had to sell during difficult years later. When you run out of money, you sell all your stuff and whatever. But anyway.
Even you.
Yeah. There were really bleak years. Read the book.
Yeah.
But anyway, things are better now for some odd reason. But my whole model was being a kid in Italy. So I grew up in Italy. So if you want to do this in Italian, I'm better in Italian. If you guys want to take it, no, we won't do that.
You speak fluently?
Lo parlo perfettamente, perché io da ragazzino ho vissuto in Italia, poi a 20 anni sono tornato qui in America. And for those Italians, I just talk gibberish. That's not true.
Yeah.
No, I was a kid in Italy, and I was born in L.A., so at age 4.5, my parents took me to Europe, and it was supposed to be for a year, and I came back at age 21. But, as an American kid speaking a good Italian, I had Italian friends, and there's no TV. Imagine a world without internet, TV. Everything we do today did not exist at all, zero. So I had a pretty good diet as a young teenager of, Italian movies, and sometimes an American movie would come, and some revival house. So I saw some of the classics as a little kid, A Bad Print, Frankenstein, Werewolf, whatever it was, dubbed in Italian. So it was a thrill to come back at age 20 and actually see the original English versions of classics. But anyway, I discovered Marvel Comics by happenstance, newsstand right on Via Veneto. I actually discovered the comics before they were Marvel, because there were monster magazines, like
Right.
Fing Fang Foom and Zarkor and all these things. And then I realized how cool the artists were, and I realized the difference between some of the art and the other art. And this is before Fantastic Four, which was the first issue of what became the Marvel Universe. And I love Fantastic Four, and suddenly Hulk was out, and Thor, and Spider-Man. I'm getting to this.
No,
thing
it's
you're talking
okay.
about.
It's okay.
No, but I'm getting there because it's really cool. So anyway, so now I'm following these series, this was the early 60s, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, I like this really well because I like what this artist did, and the writing seemed, but there was no, they had names, but there was no internet. You couldn't go on and say why and who and what. You just had to try to figure it out. Then suddenly, in the first few issues of these new Marvel comics, Stan Lee created something called Stan Lee's Soapbox. And what that was, at the back of your comic, with all the bizarro ads for weird shit that never worked, he had a little bullpen area where he would say, so Jack Kirby just inked the Fantastic Four, and now he's doing Hulk, and Steve Ditko just did Spider-Man. And suddenly, as a fan, a young teenager, I thought, oh, shit, now I understand why I like this and what's that. So he let me, into the tent, us fans. And for the first time ever, you could understand a bit what was going on. It was such a thrill. And then I followed, of course, the comics and bought every one I could, and then loved the idea of crossing over, which they did, in the comic book form. So when I started Full Moon in the 90s, I did a few things that no one had done. So the very first movie, which was Puppet Master, I had a crew shoot behind the scenes, which no one was doing. And I thought, well, and I had a good deal with Paramount. I was there about 4 years, made maybe, 50, 60 movies. And I thought, well, this is VHS days, all right, so keep that in mind. I thought, let me create a video magazine for the fans, just like Stan Lee's Soapbox, where I can show, interviews with actors, special effects guys, little preview of the future thing. And I'll do my Disney intro to each one. Hi, I'm Charles Band, and here's the video zone for Demonic Toys or Puppet Master or Subspecies. And it became super successful. People loved it. I mean, I would get letters, because back then there were letters still, and later on the road saying, God, I love the movies, but even the movies that weren't so great, I loved the video zone because it was so full of information. We couldn't believe it. This is always at the end.
It's all behind
It was
the
all
scenes.
that. This is before DVD or disc.
Yeah, or the EPK stuff that we're doing now.
So no one did this shit because, and I had to convince Paramount. They actually sat me down once and said, well, that's going to cost another 12 cents of tape, the thing, and how do people know? I said, well, put it on the cover. It'll say, watch for the video zone. Because what you had to do is you'd have to watch the movie and then wind past the credits, and there you would have your video magazine, which we did, and we did it for every single movie. And then somewhere in there, I thought, okay, now it's time to cross over. So Demonic Toys was successful. It was one of the many franchises that did well. And then I made a movie called Doll Man.
Yeah.
And then I thought, fuck it, Doll Man versus the Demonic Toys. Got to do the crossover.
But then when did you start making the dolls and the things to sell?
Around the
right
mid-90s.
around that time?
Yeah, we shipped millions in the mid-90s of the action figures for Puppet Master and Subspecies and all that stuff.
The George Lucas of direct-to-video horror.
Yeah.
Just the money's in the merchandise.
Yeah, then it all disappeared one day, but but yeah, so all that was great. And what's nice and helps me now a lot is there's a lot of nostalgia. So kids, and I've heard this story literally, I'm sure, over 1,000 times as I go to the shows, and I did my own road show for many years.
Yeah, at the conventions and things.
No, but I took a tour on the road for years. When video was getting shitty, I thought, how do I connect with fans? So I did literally...
Just your own theaters and
your
everything
own,
outside of the convention
You were
circuit.
showing up at different places and booking
No,
in
this was
places.
I did sometimes 20 cities in a month. So this was literally, it was insane. So I would usually have fans help me, and I had a few people on the road with me. We have a truck bigger than this room full of merch and crap. We would the venues would range from theaters that would hold 800 to 1,000 people, or comedy clubs 600 to 800. My criteria was there had to be a bar because, the more people would drink, the better the show would be, of course. So, and that was the fans. So, in any given month, 10 to 20 cities. I did this on and off for 4 years.
What year was this around?
It's early 2000s?
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
So we would show up, advance people there. They set the merch, and and it was like a demented Ozfest. I get on stage. I had celebrity guests. I'm surprised you didn't come to any of these.
No, I did everyone. Actually. No, there was one that you did in New Jersey, and you didn't come to it because something happened, and I had to do it with another actress. And I was
that's
like,
weird,
what
I can't remember
one
I did.
What I was?
That's a ring.
Something rings true.
Yeah,
it was for one of the gingerbread Men movies. And I was like, I have to do a song and dance for Charlie Band. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to do my damnedest to like get up there and sell some merchandise for you.
Yeah, I think there was something where some tragedy had to be
Something
somewhere.
happened,
Yeah,
you couldn't show up.
I mean, Anyway, so it was fun, and I got up. It was anecdotal. I had clips. We had coffins. We had smoke. We had girls take their tops off. This is super not PC. You can never do it again today. I would give away box sets and things just for more exposure. I had every city. I had horror celebrities. You know, William Shatner came on 3 of them, and Bill Moseley, and Jeffrey, and we did.
And then I do remember being at one. Actually, I think it was in Burbank. It was right after you were starting to get together with Rob and your wife,
right?
And she and another gal were doing like stage fighting. Wasn't that part of
possibly
your thing?
I did about 200 of these, so they talk about blurring together.
Who can remember?
But there were many. Well, because it's like these
specifics.
Conventions. You know, remember that convention when I came up to you and it's like I can't remember that.
Yeah.
But no, we did hundreds, and some of them had 1,000, 1,200 people. They were very successful. Never made really any money because the cost of flying actors in, giving them some money, schlepping around the country, shipping in the merch. You know,
and why were you doing it?
To stay connected to the fans,
connected
because
to
the
the
video
fans,
business was getting crappy.
You needed them to watch your
And
movies.
you needed to connect, and I did that. The side effect is there are so many fans today who went to these things. They're super loyal, and I have a lot of fans for these early '90s movies that they tell. Here's the story they all tell. This is like I've heard this a good bazillion times. First they meet me and I'm just like a dude. And they're all, oh my God, Charlie Band, I grew up with your movies and let me tell you a story. And this story I've heard 8,000 variations. I was with my mom, I was with my dad, I was with my grandma, and I was 9 years old or 7 years old or 8 years old, and I wanted to rent Puppet Master, and they said no. And I said, it's about puppets, just little puppets, please. And somehow the kid finagled and convinced their parents to, whoever, their guardian, to let him rent the movie. And of course they watched Puppet Master, which was definitely not very good for an 8-year-old.
No.
But it was a lasting impression. It was their first horror movie. It's probably like when I watched Frankenstein with my dad when I was a kid. I was 6, and I got freaked out just because the concept was so abhorrent, you know. So a lot of these kids grew up with the Puppet Master movies, and it's nostalgia now. So that's why we're doing pretty well, because puppets and dolls and 1-to-1 scale replicas and all. And we have a sale going on right now. Sadly, when people hear this, it'll be over.
Oh, no.
Well, it's a 4th of July sale. But we do really, really well, and that's because of the fans who grew up with these movies.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Dude.
My friend Allie or Laura from AEW wrestler. I think she was in the
bunny.
Yeah, the bunny.
Yeah, the bunny and
I know
the
that.
blade. Yeah,
me and her had
she's
like
great.
a whole video where we just talked about every Puppet Master movie. Like we broke down each one and talked
Because
about
I brought
how
some
much we
gifts
loved
which
them.
no one can see unless they're watching.
No, they can see.
Yeah.
We have
them watch
a
on
lot
YouTube.
of watchers.
So I got a whole bunch of these Tiny Terrors. It's a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
collection, so everyone gets 2.
Thank you, Tiny Terrors.
Now I have the whole collection already.
You do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
When I covered Puppet Master on the Kill Count,
Oh, right,
you guys
right.
sent me a big box of them, and I was able to give some
I
away.
love these.
Yeah, I
No,
love
I've
them.
got like a bunch here.
Yeah.
I'll save some for
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
your
you.
crew of
Yeah.
400
Thank you.
here.
Thank you so much.
No, but I
Wow,
got
you're
a
the
few.
first
Here
one
you
to
go.
bring us a gift,
Well,
I
I
think.
mean-
That's true,
Nick
yeah.
and Tessa
Bob
brought
here.
us hats.
There's more.
Thank
That's
you.
not
All
on
right.
there.
More. I'm
Great.
going to again. Someone can keep their own full moon bag.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
that's
glad that
awesome.
you never
Thank
know
you.
what's in here.
Yeah.
And then I only brought one of these because they're really hard to get and rare. But this is the Primevals,
Ooh,
which is a great story. Which is another
that just
meeting.
came out.
Yeah, and we literally sold out in 4 days. We only made 500 of them, but it's the movie and some gizmos.
Oh, show
and
it
stuff.
to that side. So the
Show
camera
it to that. Well,
side.
it's kind of upside down. Show it to that side. There's 3 Blu-rays in here.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
The
I love the
story is
box.
it's a great. This movie has such a history. You know it probably about it, right?
I don't know about Primeval,
What?
actually, no.
So who probably would appreciate this? Maybe.
I think James. Yeah. We'll give it to
I love
James.
Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Oh my God, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It'll go with my my Andre Toulon's trunk of Puppet
Yeah,
Master
sure.
Blu-rays.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's so good. I remember Puppet Master being a little kid at there's this it was also where I saw Leprechaun. Was this girl lived behind me.
Turn it right side up. Though. They put it in wrong.
The Blu-ray, I see.
Yeah, sorry.
Ooh.
And you're sorry to
pins?
interrupt. You're also going to get a full moon bag, which is
excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
You have a lot of stuff going on over there. Yeah. What were you saying?
Sorry.
No, I mean, you've heard this story a million times, but just to your point, I remember seeing Puppet Master at like 6 years old because my there was the neighbor who lived behind us was my friend Marissa, and her dad was always like kind of the bad influence, if that makes sense, and he just like would have us playing but like would put on whatever. So I saw like Puppet Master and Leprechaun and like all of these films that I should not have seen because we were just in the corner playing and he had them.
How many times do I hear this story?
Yeah,
right?
Like it's constant, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm in Puppet Master and I'm like the lady at the carnival
Such a
who's
small
going
part.
into
We want
the
more.
That's right.
We want
Well,
more
she's-
Barbara in it.
You're a
she's
fortune teller. Like
No, I'm not a fortune teller. No, Irene
Oh, no,
Miracle
you're
is
getting
the
your
fortune teller.
fortune told.
And I'm getting my
Oh, you're
fortune
right.
told to
You're
me.
right.
And my co-star is my ex-husband,
Yeah.
David Boyd.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because you guys just said to me, you know, there's a couple movies that I'm in that you just said, can you come in and just do this part for us? And
Well, yeah.
after From Beyond, I'm like, okay. And then you needed somebody to be sitting next to me who didn't have any lines, and you didn't have anybody. And so you said, well, can't David come in? And he also worked on the movies as a focus puller.
Yeah.
He's now a director and has directed a lot of episodic stuff and a couple of movies. But at the time I said, okay, yeah, come on in, David, and just sit with me. So he was really good in the movie, too.
He was,
I thought,
he was terrific.
yeah, just nodding along.
Pull people
whatever.
in. But yeah, it's so yeah, kind of go
But
on.
little did I know that just doing that little part, I mean, and that's a huge franchise. And now I've
It
been
is.
in two of them because Dallas Sonye got the rights to make Puppet Master The Littlest Reich, and so I
Right.
was in that one too.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is-
But tell us what are some of your favorite movies that you've worked on? But
That's why I wanted to ask, because you made like 400
But
of
do you
them.
want
What's-
to talk about, there's 400 movies, but the Primevals, we sort of skated over Primevals, so I think you should tell them the story of Primevals.
I'll try to do that in less than 3 minutes. It's
Yeah.
really hard because this is a movie.
He's trying to move it back in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Primevals was a movie that was made a while ago.
So it really deserves 20 minutes, and I'll try to make the trailer version here.
Yeah.
So it's the 70s. I'm in love with stop motion animation, a big fan of Ray Harryhausen, and I had this idea for this movie called Laser Blast. Laser Blast is these aliens carelessly leave this gun, this laser blast gun, and some kid finds it and blows shit up and gets revenge. Anyway. But I needed the aliens. I needed these alien dudes. Talk about you like aliens. They need to come in their spaceship, get freaked out, leave the gun carelessly, split. The kid finds it and he blows up his bully friends. And I wanted the aliens to be stop motion animation, which was my dream. And I was introduced to a guy named David Allen, who was a protege of Ray Harryhausen, and I already seen some of the movies he made. He was most famous at the time for animating the Pillsbury Doughboy, which sounds ridiculous.
wow.
That's
But this
good.
is back
Yeah.
in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? There's no CGI.
And he did the puppets.
Yeah.
Puppet Master too.
Yeah.
right?
Come here with 20 years later. Hold
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
We're in
jumping
the
ahead.
70s, dude.
So,
Right?
yeah, so
70s.
this was before Puppet Master.
Yeah.
Pre-Puppet
So
Master.
anyway, Dave and I got friendly. He did the shots for Laser Blast. People loved the little alien guys. There's a sidebar where a close friend of mine was finishing Star Wars, editing as a whole separate story, and I'm looking at Star Wars footage, way ahead of anyone seeing the movie. I thought, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. And I was finishing Laser Blast, so I quickly went back after we shot the movie. And since this kid was on a rampage with his laser gun blowing shit up, I said, let's do a faux billboard of Star Wars and let him blow up the Star Wars billboard in Laser Blast. So people thought it was genius because it came out months later and whatever. Anyway, so David Allen and I became friendly, and he said, Charlie, one day when you have money, I know you make movies in 2 weeks, I have a project called The Primevals, which will take 12 to 14 weeks, $3 to $5 million. There's 250 stop motion animation shots. So after you shoot the movie, we need 2 years to do the animation. I go, well, I'll see you in 20 years because, can't afford it.
Yeah.
But he kept, in a nice way, hounding me. In the meantime, I used them for Dolls,
right.
Puppet Master, many of my movies over the many years. And finally, we're in the 90s, early to mid 90s. And luckily, things were going real well, briefly for Full Moon, and everything died. But nonetheless, I said, David, it's time to make this movie. Oh, my God. So my dad was the line producer. I had a great father who was, veteran filmmaker. And Sure enough, 13, 14 weeks. We shot at a studio I owned in Romania. We shot in the Italian Dolomites. We spent all this money, and then imagine having a movie in the can. Like you spent 80% of your budget, and then you have to wait 2 years while they do stop motion animation, which is literally one fucking frame at a time.
Yeah.
So we started on these 250 shots, and we shot the movie in '94. We started on these shots, and about a year and a half into that program, Dave Allen, out of left field, so to speak, died of cancer. He didn't know he had it. He never did a checkup. And that was around the same time that our fortunes turned, money went bad. So we not only had to kind of close down shop, not out of business, but like reduce what we were doing, but we had to put the Primevals, the whole movie, the negative, and all those shots literally in a storage facility. Until such time as money came in again and I could finish it, which happened about 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I got Dave Allen's right arm guy, a guy named Chris Endicott. Chris amassed people who knew still how to do it. It's like a lost art almost. You know, people aren't making stop motion; they're making CGI and stuff. And for the last 6 years, we worked on finishing the movie, and it just is literally out 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
and it's
something that was
spectacular.
shot
94.
94.
Yeah.
So it's got the craziest history. So our release pattern's interesting because of the deal I made. So we released it 2 Fridays ago on Amazon for transactional only, and it's doing great. We've
Okay.
30,000 people have already rented it. So that's 10 times what we normally do on a movie. Then we sold it to Shudder. It'll come out on SVOD for the summer.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
And we just now brought it out in this fancy box set,
Hell yeah.
which is sold out. But that's not maybe true. Maybe there's 30 left because we just started our sale, and I'm hearing that it's almost gone.
Okay.
And then sometimes in the fall we'll have the single Blu-ray out at retail, and then we have a 3 Blu-ray less expensive box set coming out. So this movie, it's probably like 60 years in the making, but at least 30 years since we completed photography.
And did it go to a film festival too?
It went to every festival, and people loved it. We went to Sitges.
I can't wait to see it now.
Fantasia.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
It's a time capsule.
It reminds me of Mad God. Did you see that?
Yeah, but that's
That's a different thing, but it's also stop motion film that was done over the course
This is like a lost Ray Harryhausen movie.
Yeah,
this is like
yeah.
Jason and the Argonauts. I mean, not that theme, but it's got that vibe.
And who was the famous actress who's in it? Haley.
Juliette
Mills?
Yes,
Juliette Mills, yeah.
It was a wonderful cast, but it's just such a great tribute to stop motion.
That's awesome.
And he was able to do stop motion shots that, even today would be really hard to do because he was so gifted at what he was doing. So anyway, that's a sidebar, but that's longer than 3 minutes.
I'm really excited about
But then back to your favorite movies. Like, what are your favorite movies?
What are some of your
you've ever
favorites
worked
that you've made?
out of 300? Like,
Oh, God. If you have a lot of children, it's hard to talk about the favorite kid, because
Sure.
they're all listening, right?
all of the
I mean, the
characters.
ones
so
that
many.
you're most proud of, or you probably like
I'm
them
proud
for
of a lot
different
of them.
reasons.
I mean, okay, so Trancers was a
Yeah.
movie, then there's a big reboot happening, which I'm not supposed to talk about.
Oh,
but
well, I know about it.
you know about it.
In fact, I sat next to him at a screening the other night.
Okay.
But I forgot to bring it up, but I knew about it.
Yeah, well, Lee Wanell is writing and directing.
Oh.
Okay, that's who I was sitting next to
Oh,
at a
really?
screening of Maxine.
Oh,
And
shit.
and we were chatting for a
Wait,
minute. and
Lee
then I
was
went,
there?
Yes.
Yeah, he was next to us.
No.
I don't know if he went to the party, though.
Oh,
I didn't see him at the party.
He's one of my favorite filmmakers.
Is this how we reacted when you told him I was coming here
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, totally.
I was like,
This is
Charlie
how-
Band?
This is how we
Yes.
react every
But Lee-
time Barbara
so-
tells us, like, what have you guys covered? Just like, oh my
So
God.
Lee Wanell is remaking Trancers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can we,
What,
do
right?
we have to cut this from the...
Nah.
All right.
cares?
It's fine. Hell
Oh,
yeah.
The exclusive.
Hell yeah.
Maybe.
But-
We don't
Because
know.
wait, I
So-
haven't
but-
seen
but-
Trancers. Is it kind of sci-fi-ish?
It's
right?
a sci-fi movie.
Okay, yeah.
It's really
Then
clever.
he's a great pick for it.
Helen
Yeah.
Hunt's first movie. And,
Okay.
And fantastic. Tim Thomerson
Oh.
is the lead, who also was Dollman.
Yeah, he was Dollman.
I think I have a little part in it, too, don't I?
Of course.
Yeah, I have a little part. In Trancers. I'm in but I haven't seen it in 30 years, so I forget what I do.
No, if
I'm
anyone
talking to
hasn't
Richard
seen
Lynch
it,
or
you'll love
something.
it. It's
Okay.
really it's a clever movie that's made, and Quentin and I talk a bunch, and he literally talks about that movie as such a testament of what you can do with a low budget, with talent
Right.
and clever, and it's not a big, special effect opus. It's just clever.
Everybody
movie.
has to go out and watch Trancers now.
Yeah.
If you haven't
Well, I made
seen
5.
It.
Anything that works, you can just
Yeah.
keep going.
Sure,
so.
yeah.
1 and 2 and 3 are definitely the best. So anyway, Trancers is fond memories working with Tim and Helen.
And Helen Hunt.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
Yes,
movie.
yeah.
Wow.
And she is such a good story. She and I became close, and she was not wanting to do television. Her father Gordon Hunt was a friend of my father's, and he directed stage and stuff. And Helen was being pulled back into theater, and she got this possible gig on this TV show. And I remember having lunch with her, and she said, I'm not sure if I want to go there. I love theater. I said, what's the show? She said, it's called Mad About You. And literally, she, within a matter of a month or two, got it. It was a huge hit. Then a year later, we were making Trancers 2, and I really needed her for a couple days.
Yeah.
And to her credit, I called, and I said, I know you're like, you're making more every week than my fucking movie cost. And she came and did it. She did it for scale.
Wow.
And came and did it, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, nice. That's nice. I like that.
Anyway, so Trancers is one. Each one has a story, so
Yeah.
we're probably out of time. All right, so
So you love that one.
Trancers,
Yeah.
Puppet Master because it was fun to make, and I've been tinkering with that idea for years. Top 5 Head of the Family. If you've ever seen Head of the Family,
Oh, sure.
I mean, it's just too bizarre and different and fun. And, I love these movies that, not just mine, movies that stand the test of time. You can watch them literally 40 years later, and they still are, you wouldn't even know when they were shot. They're just clever and good. They're sort of timeless. And so there's a handful of those. I don't know what else.
Do you have a favorite?
Subspecies, just because that was my first foray to Romania. Then I built a studio there, and that was a big adventure with Ted Nicolau.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite puppet? Mine's Tunneler.
I've got.
Oh, yeah.
I
You like Tunneler?
I like Tunneler.
That's
yeah.
so cute.
Most
Like a
people
nice
say
little-
Blade.
See, he's too mainstream
easy
for me.
to say that,
I like the
right?
lieutenant, the second in command. Yeah.
No, there's so many. I mean, even the Tiny Terrors have got a lot of cool puppets.
Yeah.
And then we have, Baby Oopsie and
Yep.
Demonic
Baby Oopsie
Toys,
is cool.
little cussing thing. And then we have Ginger Dead Man, it's
Yeah.
pretty fun.
Do you-
And
So, do you ever get tired? Because you're so busy all the time, and you're
no,
still
I don't. I
making
actually
movies
don't
and-
get fatigued. I don't get
You
tired.
never get fatigued.
But I have a really super good regimen. I mean, I've been to like 4 Hollywood parties in my entire life. I don't do that shit. I'm happy at home with Robin. We watch movies. We have
Yeah.
fun. I've not been in that lifestyle. No drugs.
Is that what
Light
keeps you
booze.
going? We talk about this on the show. We always ask people, and it's a good way to wrap it up. Is what scares you,
Yeah.
Charlie?
Okay, this
Do you
was
have any-
just like I never talk politics in my life for a lot of reasons. Nothing. It's embarrassing. I am not
Really?
scared of shit.
Really?
Only thing I'm scared of, because I've had moments in my life, is lack of funds. That's
Oh.
a bummer.
Well,
Okay.
that's,
When
yeah.
you're out of dough.
Yeah.
That is really scary, and that's what I was kind of getting at with the Nightly, because you talked about how it wasn't easy. Like, you've struggled a lot
Yeah,
and had to
really
reinvent
bad.
yourself so many different times. And I feel like we talk about this on the show a lot, but we're all going through that in so many different ways
Yeah.
and different avenues of the business right now. And it's terrifying because you don't know what's going to happen, and if you're going to be able to support yourself or the team around
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
What is the thing that kept you going or continues to keep you
I
going?
don't know, just sort of kind of forward motion, because if you slow down just a little bit and things are not good, it's over.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had friends I have a lot of friends who had a business in the 80s and 90s. They were in this business, and now they're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
You say this show business sucks, but it's all I know how to do. I don't know what the fuck I would do otherwise. But it's there's also a legacy of movies, and there's fans, and you just wake up and go like a soldier. You just got to get out there and. I mean, you don't want to be stupid either. I mean, you don't want to just fall off
Yeah.
a cliff and go, and I've seen this cycle turn so many times, because when I started, it was all film. I mean, that's how you made money. It was a B-side of a double bill. It was ticket sales. That was
Yeah.
it. And then it's evolved into whatever it is today, which unfortunately is really a bummer. Once
Yeah.
physical left us, now we're in this world where it's
But we feel like physical might be coming back.
Nah,
physical media.
stop.
You don't
No.
think it'll come
I'm
back?
doing everything physical. I Blu-rays,
Oh.
DVDs. I have new movies coming out. I'm actually releasing fucking VHSs.
Yeah.
Just for the fuck of it, just
Yeah.
for fun. It's not like I think I'm going to sell 10,000 if I sell
Yeah.
500, but it's cool, and there is a nostalgia, and fans like it. But no, the physical's not coming back.
At least
No, you
not
don't think
what
so?
it
No,
was.
Because I think
No.
people like to
Because
collect things.
okay.
But you're selling these things.
That's
People love this
that's
stuff.
I'm talking about, you talk
But
physical media.
I know. I was talking about media, but
No. Well,
but
yeah, no,
you
thank
sell
God for
toys
those
and
things. Otherwise,
yeah.
things wouldn't be good right now.
Yeah,
Because-
but we talk about that with
Yeah.
we were talking about this earlier before you got here today, that the advent of streaming has changed everything, and it was never because fans were going, "Oh, I hate buying DVDs." Nobody was saying that. Nobody has ever said that.
No, but what's happened, and I'm just in a nutshell, is, I've seen film and then VHS and then DVDs and now streaming,
Yeah.
and I've lived through each one of those cycles. The bad cycle is where we're at now, and I'm not sure where it ends exactly. For me, luckily, because of this library and these characters, I have an alternative way of making money.
Yeah.
But back in the day, movies I made, movies, Carpenter's a good friend. These movies in the early 80s especially had a chance because it was an even playing field. You would somehow make a cool little movie, and if it was decent and you had any kind of distribution, it would get on a video store shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the country went to rent movies.
Yeah.
And if it was a horror movie, it would be on the horror section. And studios weren't making a lot of horror movies. So you could be there next to Terminator and Aliens, and there's Puppet Master and Nuke 'Em High or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And people, these are cool. And then if you were clever, because Puppet Master, people thought they missed it theatrically. I had a lot of people over here saying, I missed I said, we never had it out one day in any theater.
Yeah.
But it had that magic and that vibe.
Yeah.
So you had an even playing field. Today, it does not exist. And I'm really good at this business. I mean, I'm in there and people and friends and marketing and social and all the bullshit. Why? Because you make the movie. And if you're partnered up with Netflix and they put it on even Netflix, at a certain point you just fall asleep scrolling through shit. It's like like that. And Netflix is one big streaming site with Paramount and Hulu and blah blah blah. So there's no even playing field. There's no place anymore where a new horror movie that may be made inexpensively but it's kind of brilliant can showcase itself for everyone, let's say in this country, who likes horror movies.
Well, it's more niche now. It's like at film festivals.
Well, it's not even niche. It's a sliver of a speckle of niche.
So
that's the problem.
There's only like the fans that love these movies, because I've been making these small independent movies now for like 12 years.
Yeah. But even because we've talked about it, how it's. I mean, I don't want to end on a sour note because I'm an optimist, but
we have
it's
to be
really
realists too.
tricky right now.
Yeah, it's very true. No, we know.
Of how splintered the business is and how little movies don't get a shot. The movies that everyone's remaking today, the big horror movies of the 80s and 90s, would never have been made in today's world. Never. I mean, they'd be made and they'd be sitting on a shelf and you can see them 600 movies down on YouTube. That's it.
Well, what advice then would you give to filmmakers who are trying? I know you probably get this a lot, but you've had to do it in such a scrappy way and reinvent yourself so many different times. And I think coming from you, people can pontificate like, "Oh, never give up," and blah 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 blah. But coming from you, who's genuinely had to do it and is proof of reinventing yourself, what advice would you give to?
If you're a new filmmaker. Sadly, the only way you can probably get a project made is by proving to people who are the decision makers, many of whom I don't think are very right for their job, but nonetheless, that you have talent. So how do you do that? You make a short, you get it at a film festival, you get noticed as a filmmaker. The scrappy way of getting a movie made and getting it out in distribution, you could do all that and you'll go broke, unfortunately. There's no chance.
Yeah.
Now, again, if you have a bunch of friends and they're all wealthy and they want to fund your movie, then you have a movie that you can shop around, and in all likelihood, no one's going to pick it up. I mean, unless it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And then if someone picks it up and you spent $700,000, which is a miracle to make a big, amazing, crazy good movie, you'll get a $50,000 advance if you're lucky. So I'm just saying, unfortunately, that's where we're at today.
Well, I was talking to another guest that we had on the show, and we were saying, but if you make it for even less, $300,000 to $500,000, you distribute it yourself. After a few years, you should be able to make your money back. You don't think so?
I'm sorry, no.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh my God, Charlie, this is like a.
I'm sorry. I'm telling you, you want the truth.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Where do we go from here?
Then I mean, there are distributors that are paying a little bit over $300,000 to $400,000. So if you can sell it to them.
No. So here's the thing. That's not a business. You take a shot.
But do
you have
we
a passion
get into
project.
You're in a business.
I'm in a business.
I'm not in this for the business anymore.
Right.
I mean, I am, but I've been doing this for 40 years, so I feel like anything I get to do is like gravy.
Right. Yeah.
And I enjoy doing it.
No, and you're awesome. And I should say that Barbara's doing a movie that my son began shooting today, and it's a terrific film. It's got a great
really
script.
Well written. So good.
Mosley's coming on board. Everyone's doing it essentially for almost free.
You got to pay me something.
Well, but I'm saying this is because it's a passion project.
It's a passion project. It's a really good film.
And it's a great
really
script.
good script. Yeah.
So I mean, you can do that. And
Your son is a new filmmaker.
He is.
So he's in it for the love of the game. You got to love it.
And that's
Well,
why,
that's
that's why you're doing it.
That's why you.
That's
and I
why
are
we
both,
do it.
Yeah, that's why we do
because
it.
we love what we're doing. We all love what we're doing. Yeah.
And we're going down.
Somehow we're
going to
make it work. But there is that thing where you keep making these movies, and every once in a while something hits. Like the Blair Witch Project, or you make some little cool movie that. Puppet Master, that something is going to hit.
But again,
in the
and I want to
zeitgeist.
keep going back to the bummer part of the conversation. I was very lucky. We were lucky to be in that era.
In a good time in the 80s.
Right,
yeah.
because Puppet Master, luckily, it was a clever movie. It was different. It was fun. The campaign was great. And Paramount distributed it, so I had a great distributor for some years. And
was that with Jim, that you were working with? Jim
Giannopoulos,
Jim Giannopoulos started at Paramount doing all the video stuff. And then he went on to run
he went to Fox,
20th Century Fox.
And then he came back to
Paramount.
Paramount. And now he's somewhere in Greece enjoying his life because it's
him.
over. But so the advice thing, that's what I would do for people who are passionate. They just have to show their talent, and then somebody will recognize it, and hopefully one of these big companies or streaming sites.
But this is what happened.
We have a podcast.
But this is also what happened with Terrifier.
Hopefully.
Hey, listen. We've been in a couple. Like you were in Terrifier, and that blew up. I was in Your Next, and that was made for $700,000.
But let me say this about because I know where you're going. So, Terrifier is a great example of a movie made for very little money. The first one,
$30,000.
I mean,
Jesus,
nothing. Okay, but Blair Witch Project, all that stuff. But that's not a business. That's one in 1,000.
I always say that it was luck. We are very lucky.
It was whatever it was. I'm just saying, if you want to take a shot every so often, and you find money, you make a movie, see what happens. But that's not a business. I've been in the movie business. I'm trying to support a small staff and myself and
family,
a big family, and all that stuff. So how do you make, not to reduce these things to widgets, how do you make 8, 10, 12 widgets in a year that we used to be able to, if we were clever enough, actually make a moderate profit in today's world with everything we've just been talking about? That's the problem. And I have new ideas. I'm exploring something right now. We'll see what happens. But Roach, that's exhausting now. And if I did it today, I'd be arrested for sure.
I think a lot of creative people, whether it be in the film business or creating art or doing anything, they have other incomes to make money. I mean,
lucky them.
No, but haven't we all done different things to make money?
Yeah, I think we all have different avenues of creativity.
Yeah.
Whether it's we're trying to do a podcast, whether it's the conventions, whether whatever
the
it
conventions
is,
help us
what
we're
doing, and we
Right.
just have to be creative and reinvent yourself. We're always reinventing, just like you.
Endlessly.
Well, thank you for joining us,
I have
Charlie.
no extra words of wisdom except this is fun. You guys have a nice setup here.
Yeah.
You have an awesome
thank you.
crew. They're chuckling
They are
back there.
amazing. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you for being with us. So if anyone's listening, they should pick up. Well, maybe not because they'll be sold out.
I'm terrible. I don't know.
Primevals on.
Well, Primevals is awesome, but
I'm
they
super
should.
pumped about
what
this.
they
Thank
should
you.
do.
Well, it's going to be on Shudder.
We have one of
Yes.
the few independent streaming sites on earth. Everyone else has
you have
gone
that,
away.
yeah.
Well, I was the first one. 6 months after Netflix. First, I started at conventions trying to convince people to give me their credit card, and every month they'll be charged $6.90. What the fuck are you talking about? So we wound up with, after a year of work, and no one understood what this was. This is back in the day where Netflix was sending DVDs to your home. This is way before. You're too young to know some of this
No,
stuff.
she knows all about that. We've talked about it before. She knows all
I'm
about
just saying,
that.
I do. I educate myself. It's
talk to a
important.
15 or 16-year-old about any of this, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Talk
I
to a
also
12-year-old.
am 15. So
Oh, well, that's good. Well, all right. But totally lost my train of thought.
No,
It was
you
such a
you
good
started
one.
your own streaming service.
Oh, yeah. So I had to convince people to sign up to this thing, and you had to kind of piece it together. You had to go to a credit card enabler company, and today it's much easier. But now there's 500 streaming sites, and none of them are making money. So that's unfortunately the way the thing has evolved. And then my good luck was during the worst times I had, the worst times where I sold every piece of comic art, and I was living with Robin in a little apartment here in LA. The only thing I didn't do, this is when video died and streaming hadn't happened. Video died. This is a business. No, it's just half of what it was. When Blockbuster and Hollywood Video closed, that was the death knell.
Yeah.
You talk
So
about
like 10
renting-
years ago.
It's terrible.
10, 12 years,
Yeah.
something like that. So
Yeah.
then I had this streaming thing. I was looking at what what's his name did over at Netflix, And we struggled. I gave away everything just to get these subscribers, and they would be emailing like, when's your next movie? And I said, I can only make so many. Then I license movies. And then one day someone called me from Amazon who was, thank God, a fan. He was one of the kids who got freaked out with the Ghoulie out of the toilet.
Wow.
And he goes, Charlie, I love your streaming site, and we're doing this thing, and it's called add-on subscription. And if you're a Prime member, you pay, Bobby, do you want Full Moon to be part of it? So I thought long and hard, yes, right away. Yes, please, save me. And this is, again, during really bleak days. And so we did the deal. I thought, easy. We just plug something in. Because, I mean, technically, I'm good at film. But, I can't do what these
It's
guys
tech
do.
stuff, yeah.
They said, no, I'm sorry. We can't do that. You have to deliver all 450 movies that you have up currently on your site to Amazon. All right. So we know what that's like, and 450 deliveries. And we did that, and hoping, and then they don't account for 90 days, and it's 60 days past 90 days. So when this thing went live, let's say it was January, sometime in June, I got the first report. And I don't see that well, so I'm trying to read this fucking thing. There's 8 million numbers, and I thought, it looks like 800 subscribers after all that. What the flying fuck? And then I realized it was 8,000 subscribers. I only had 800 with my thing after a year's work. And it was that saved my butt, because everything else I sold except my library. I kept the library. It's the only thing that was hard, because even back then during bleak days, people would come, I'll give you so much for this negative and so much for that negative. And that turned it all around, allowed me to breathe again, make movies again, finish Primevals. So never say die, I guess, is part of it. And I just hope that something evolves from all this that will basically help young filmmakers make a reasonable movie and have a chance at recovering their money. I'm not sure where that's going and how that's going to happen right now, but that's my hope.
Right. Okay. Well, on that note.
I'm that happy.
Yeah.
A little bit of that.
You're getting there. We're getting there.
Trying to.
Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you so much.
How do you sign
Charlie.
up on this thing?
Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Yeah,
where
it's a
can
pleasure.
where can people follow you? And
Oh
find
yeah,
stuff?
I never promote shit. Okay, well, fullmoonfeatures.com. They can sign up on Amazon. We also have our own app, and that's what supports us. That's our streaming side. That's pretty much it.
And you're on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm all that. I don't do any of that. I always
You have
honest
people
with
that
people.
you have ghost people. That
Yeah, they write like, "Hey, dudes," it's not me. It's like,
I know. When I talk to you on Twitter, I'm talking to somebody else in the office.
No. I'm sorry. I do the Twitter thing.
Oh, you do?
Because it's
What
like a
did you?
text. And that is actually me. Once in a while, someone plops something in there that I forgot to promote or some shit. That is me.
That's me. Twitter is like me. The other ones we.
No,
You're not you on Instagram either?
No, I guess sometimes
gonna
Instagram's
talk to you more on Twitter
50-50. TikTok is
No,
like
but you
never
are
me.
you are the
Really, I've been talking to you for. I'm just kidding.
master of all this stuff. You're amazing. You're amazing.
Pretty good at it, yeah.
Pretty good at it. She's like
I'm pretty good on
everywhere.
social media.
Great at it.
Yeah, she's better.
And
than
when
me, for sure.
whoever
I'm just keeping it real, dudes.
whoever hooked me up with this, you pop up like all the time. I see
the
all the.
algorithm?
I
Yeah.
guess whatever the hell the rhythm
Whenever
is.
you log on, I'm there.
You're there. And
Well,
you
I
always
try
say
to
cute
tweet
things
something
and-
once or twice a day and say I'm on Instagram just to
awful.
stay around.
I
We can all
don't-
learn from Barbara.
I know. It's true. That's
Evergreen
the big lesson.
statement.
That's the big lesson
I just
here.
don't want people to forget me.
Oh,
We
stop
could
it.
never forget you,
Oh
Barbara.
God. All right. Well, anyway.
All right,
On
thanks.
that note, thank you for
Thank you.
being
Pleasure.
here,
No,
Charlie.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank
Pleasure.
you.
Please follow us on the socials. On
Don't
the
forget us.
Patreon. Don't forget us.
Yeah.
Please like, subscribe, tell your friends. Until next time, I'm Catherine Corcoran.
I'm Barbara Crampton.
And I'm James A. Janisse. Be sure to leave the light on.
Would you? Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I gotta do one thing to my hair because I don't like those flyaways. I need like cream. But I go like this. Yes. Water. Hello, friends.